I'm just going to say, people watching this, if they want to stop the program, all they have to do really is find a piece of card, and they cut in a hole which is roughly going to cover their face like this.
That's right.
And you get a small mirror.
Yes.
And you paste it on there. Small
Yes.
mirror, just to, well, you can see how big it is. Very small.
That's right.
And people can do this if they want while we're doing it.
That's
we
right.
start the program. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, this is very, very simple. So I'm seeing where my face is. It's
yes.
there.
Okay.
But I not only want to be aware of what I look like, but I want to know what I am. That's the question. What am I really?
Yes.
And the mirror can't tell me. It can tell me what I look like all the way up to here, but it can't reveal what I am at centre because I can't get it here.
Okay.
But I want to look. I want to take a fresh look at what I am at centre. So then now I look at the hole in the card, you see, and I notice it's a round hole, but it's a hole. It's empty, and because it's empty, I can put things in it. I can put your face in it now, or your hand. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a small hole. Now, paying attention to it, to the card, if I bring it up towards me, if you try this, I bring it towards me, then the hole gets bigger. Yeah?
That's true.
And it gets even bigger.
Yeah.
And finally, when I put it on, I find no boundary to the hole, visually speaking.
Right.
So I've now drawn my attention from arm's length all the way to zero distance. And here I find this boundless, awake space full of my view out. So it's a little experiment for drawing your attention from arm's length all the way home to what you are privately.
Okay.
That's it, you see, very simple. Okay. Now, if you don't feel wow, then so be it. But I believe no one can see their own face. See? Now, everyone responds differently.
Well, we have an image. Like, okay, I can look at the mirror, of course, but I have an image of what my face looks like.
Yes.
Now, I'm not a very good artist, so I'd find it very difficult to draw my own face. It would be unrecognisable because I don't have that talent. But somehow, if I see pictures of 1,000 faces, I can pick my face out.
Yes, and where you can remember the image of your face now if you don't look in the mirror. So where have you got that image from?
Well, it's not only just looking here, it's looking, having seen it thousands and thousands of times.
Yes. So you've learned it, really.
Absolutely. It's memory.
Yes. So I think as a baby and an infant, we're not yet identified with that face. I have a friend whose daughter was 4, and my friend asked her to go and wash her face in the bathroom. And when she looked in to see what her daughter was doing, she was washing the face in the mirror.
So she's washing the mirror?
Yes. That's where she found her face. She was innocent and hadn't yet moved it.
Okay.
And the same little girl came home from school one day with a picture of her class, and with Mum was going through every face, and she got to a little girl on one row, and she said, "Oh, I've never seen that little girl in my class." Well, who was it?
Yeah.
It was herself, you see.
Yeah.
And until we're a certain age, we are faceless and headless.
Yeah.
And we haven't learned yet to identify with our appearance. And by the time we're, a child, we are aware of our appearance, but not yet fully identified with it.
Yeah. You see, it can change. I remember reading, there's a film made years ago. It was about a plane crash in the Andes. It was a rugby team going.
Oh, yes.
I forget whether they were going from Chile to Brazil, I think, and the plane crashed. And it was an incredible story because half of them were killed when the plane crashed, and some survived, and they were there several weeks, like 5 or 6 weeks, and they were, eating each other in the end. Obviously, the bodies they were eating. But the main guy who survived, who wrote the book, incredibly moving book. I've gone a long time about that, but I'll stay to my point, which was when he didn't see himself in the mirror for about 6-7 weeks. Then he saw himself in the mirror, and he got such a shock because he changed so much in that time. So obviously his image of himself had remained the same.
Yes.
Yet his physical appearance had changed quite dramatically.
Yes.
And I guess that happens sometimes. You know,
Oh,
you kind of
yes.
you're holding this memory,
Yeah.
and it's out of date because it is the past. It's memory.
I think it's probably always out of date unless you're actually looking in the mirror at the
Yeah.
time. And I've had that experience going camping and after a day or two looking in a mirror and being quite surprised. I think the process of growing up is becoming aware of your individual identity. And that is bound up with your appearance, of course, and your nationality and your family and what you want to do in your life. Growing up is finding out who you are on the human level. And this is fantastic. Language and culture and technology all come out of this. But I would say this is not the end of the story, that your true nature, which is inexpressible really, but we could say it's this boundless clarity, is always there. And as you grow up, you just lose touch with it, or you lose awareness of it, or you overlook it, and you become hypnotized by your individual identity. Absolutely necessary and wonderful thing. Now, if you live and then die, just convinced you're just the one you see in the mirror, I think you've missed out on what is your birthright, the next stage, really, which is awakening to who you really are and discovering your private identity. And you continue being aware and developing your public identity. For me, Richard, for you, Ian, and everything we want to do. But awakening to your true nature is discovering who is at the heart of your human life. And awakening to who is at the heart of your human life, this infinite resource, just empowers you to be yourself even more. It's it's not a denial of your individuality. It's an empowerment of it.
I know, Richard. You also explored Buddhism for a time.
Yes.
Is that part of your life now? Buddhism still?
Not in the same way as it was. After about 8 years, after I'd met Douglas, I met again this guy Dhiravamsa, who was there at the same London Buddhist Society Summer School as Douglas was when I first met Douglas. And I'd come across Dhiravamsa over the years, and in 1978 I heard him talk, and I thought, oh, I'd like to go on a retreat. And I went on a retreat, and it really impressed me, a Buddhist Vipassana retreat. And so at the end of that year, I think it was 78, I went and joined the community. It was in Cambridgeshire. And after a little while, they asked me to train. And then I trained for a year and then led 10-day Vipassana retreats for 3 years.
Yeah.
A very intense experience, wonderful experience. And it was Vipassana meditation mixed with a lot of body work. And that's where I first learned Tai Chi. And so I think I needed a time there where I could just be quiet and still with this experience and realization of who one really is. I just needed to digest it, I think, looking back. And I needed to explore my own way, because I'd obviously been very influenced by Douglas at a young age. And I needed to, I suppose, plough my own furrow, walk my own path, really, which I did. And I don't practice regular sitting meditation like I used to then, but I love it. I love it when I do it, and I'm so happy to have explored another approach in depth, really. And I think one of the things I had to work out around that time was because I was so influenced by Douglas and the Headless way and the experiments, and this approach, which seemed to me just to work like that, not just with me but with others. I did wonder what other people were doing. And I found value in this other way. And then I had to work out where I stood between the Headless way and meditation and then other things.
Yes.
And I came to a kind of deeper understanding for myself that all these are ways. And one's true nature is it doesn't belong to anyone. And so in the long run, although it was confusing time for a little while trying to work out where I stood vis-a-vis these different approaches, it led me to a deeper sense of my own freedom and independence in a way.